Hey everyone, I was traveling last week. I went back home for the first time in almost 3 years, which was really cool, which I'm going to talk about in this video. And I will restart back on REBT exercise 11, the series I've been doing tomorrow. But I want to talk about the perspectives that I have gained when I was home. Some of the things I experienced, again, not being home for, would have been almost 3 years. 3 years since seeing my mom's family, my grandma, her mother, who's 90 this year, and her sister, my great aunt, who's 91. I hung out with them for about 24 hours straight. I had so much fun with them. Being around them, I realized what I was missing in my life in so many ways. And not something, when you've been working on recovery for a very long time, and when you reach recovery, your perspective shifts when they happen. You hold on to them, in my belief, and other people who have reached these levels of internal peace. They hit you like Mike Tyson, smack you in the face. And when they hit you, they stick pretty good because your beliefs are already so sound when it comes to unconditional self-like other acceptance and your philosophical perspectives, whether you're using the principles from REBT, whether you're using Stoicism on top of that, other Greco-Roman philosophies, your behaviors have changed so much. You just learn lessons pretty quickly. Not all the time, but there was no shortage of that on this vacation. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this. Again, I'll get back to the REBT series tomorrow with 11. I have about 8 more or 9 more left to do. And then reach out, please. Don't sit in silence. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. We will get you in. We work all over the world, different time zones, translators if needed. And our mission in life is to spread correct awareness on the best information, not only for OCD and anxiety recovery, but for all anxiety-based disorders. PTSD is no different in most cases from OCD. There's still a latching mechanism. There's still belief systems. I've worked with people with severe PTSD who have come out towards recovery, use the same exact principles. This book is not called How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything unless you have CPTSD, unless you have this particular thing. Yes, those things add difficulties. They have shape-shifted different things about your personality per se and your belief systems and behaviors, but I have never met a treatment-resistant case in any of those. Same thing with GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, etc. So when I went home, I'm going to give you how much has changed in my life. First thing, flew out last Tuesday, so 6 days ago. Go home. Where Erica wakes up at 1:45, wake up at 2:30. We go all the way to the airport in Denver. We literally, no email, click on the kiosk, your flights are canceled. Erica, she says, what the fuck? And I said, this is great. So it wasn't until that night, it would have taken a day, because I was only with my mom for 2 days and my grandma, my aunt for a day, and then I went to a wedding, one of my best friend's weddings in Vermont. So it wasn't like I was with my mom the whole time and I really wanted to spend time with her because I don't only see her a couple times a year. And we weren't close for a while and I really wanted to mend that relationship. So I said, screw it, let's get another flight, let's go to Delta. She's like, it's going to cost. I said, we'll get the refund later, don't worry about it, let's do it. And there was a bunch of mishaps. We ended up getting on a plane. It was a direct flight that they canceled and I had a connecting flight. But we only got there an hour and a half later, which was surprising. So I had all that, handled that really well. Sure, I had frustration, but nothing how most people, I was in the line waiting for people at Southwest. This is ridiculous. This is the worst thing ever. And I'm like, that was me. That was me. Oh, fuck these people. Like the people, you see the people working at the desk. You're looking at them and you think, these people are about to snap. Because we're yelling at them and they didn't even do anything. So I get home, hung out with my mom. My mom is almost 70. So I hadn't seen her, I saw her Christmas, but you don't see her that much. So when I see my mom, it makes, got one of my favorite mugs. Of course, I love this story, right? I got it from a friend of mine who died at 50 from emphysema. And sad story. Great mindset all the way up until he died. Gave me this as a joke with socks that also say fuck right before he died. I love that story. Very appreciative about how long I lived already. And I'll talk about that in this video. So I saw my mom and it made me just think, my mom sagging a little, we're all going there. We're all going to sag and look like shit. I'm never getting plastic surgery ever because I don't believe it's conducive with unconditional acceptance. So I think it's really, really important. And so I saw my mom, and I realized in that moment that life was going to come up on me pretty quickly. And I thought, I gotta make the most of my life in many ways, whether it's work, whether it's hiking, whether it's my marriage. And then I went down the shore. And I remember I worked on the Jersey Shore Boardwalk for 8 summers. I worked at the show on the Cast the Shore store with Danny when the show was going on. And I hadn't been back there in so long. It was so crazy to think about the 20 plus years I've been on the Seaside Boardwalk. And it hit me, I teared up a little bit because it made me realize the shortness of life. And I realized, again, about how grateful I am to make it to even almost 35 years old, because I visited my father's grave. My father died on March 28th in 2018. And have it right there, wrote Tony. I got to get the P right here. It's a little bit off-centered. I got to get that P right there. I got this in a marketing meeting. It was a big marketing meeting, and there was a tattoo artist there. And he's like, does anyone want a tattoo? And I was like, I do. I came home with this tattoo. My wife's like, can't resist, can you? So for the like a marketing agents and life insurance people, it was so much fun. And we talked about the tattoos. And when I was there, I walked around the graveyard, and there was some really sad graves. People who died, I would look it up on Google, people who died in car accidents. One guy, he died, I think at 24. It was a beautiful grave. It was like it was like $100,000 grave. And his father was also there. He went through a light. Someone blew a red light and killed him. He was only 58. There was other ones I saw of kids that were 6. Other ones I saw of people that, one of them was so sad. She had just got seemed like her doctorate from, oh my God, was it Stanford maybe? They engraved her doctorate of psychology degree into her tombstone. She died at 30. Sad. And I realized in that moment, yet again, how grateful I am to even be here. That nothing in my life truly is as big of a deal as I thought it was. And that's not in the wishy-washy way. How most people say, well, this too shall pass. No, it won't. Your OCD will not pass on your own. The sting of a loved one's death will not pass if you don't work on your beliefs. My mom's neighbor lost her daughter in her 30s, and she was bedridden for 5 fucking years. Okay? It's sad because we don't teach this stuff to people in school. What do we teach them? We teach them stuff that doesn't matter. And that's what we do. So, for the most part, a lot of things we learn in school do not matter in the grand scheme of life, at least in my opinion. We'd be better off teaching people a class in high school called How to Handle When Your Mom Dies of Cancer. That's a much better class than anything else. How to handle the realities of death. We don't learn that because people don't want to face emotions for understandable purposes and reasons. So after that, I went up and saw my grandma and my aunt, my great aunt. Ridiculous. Italians, crazy people. Owned a diner. My grandma, my mom's mother, smoked 5 packs. This has been verified by my mother, her sister, cousins. She smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day for decades. And my great aunt, her sister, only quit smoking 8 years ago. She smoked a pack of cigarettes a day by the time she was, I think, 12 in Brooklyn. And she only quit 8 years ago, so she was 83 because she had to move in. She had to move in with my grandma, her sister. And I was telling the story in the group. They were arguing about stamps. They go to the bank or they go places and they go down to Stewart's. And Stewart's the gas station, a convenience stop in upstate New York and throughout New York. And she's like, do you have the stamps? And my grandma's like, why the fuck are you always bitching about the stamps? And they're like screaming at each other. And I said, this is amazing. Then they were friends again in 2 seconds. Sisters for you right there. When you've been alive for 90 years. And I just hung out on a porch with them. Their screened-in porch. The night I got there, I think it was 4 hours. And the day after was 5. And we just talked. Talked about life. Talked about my uncles. Talked about the domestic violence cases back then and how much more acceptable it was. I mean, my great aunt, I can still hear her saying it in 2021, last time I went home. She went, Nicholas, everyone got punched in the 50s. She's like, I got married. My grandma was like, they all got married at like fucking 18 back then, you know? Had babies 12 seconds later. And my grandfather had a date with an Irish girl 2 days later. Because remember, Irish and Italians back in the Brooklyn days, sure, all throughout the boroughs, 50s and 60s, no bueno. So much drama. But I remember asking my great aunt, I said, what were your favorite years? She said, post-World War II, right after. She said the dancing, and I was only 14, Nicholas, and dancing with soldiers who were 18. You know, we're so, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, it's the realities. I'd say, oh, you were dancing, going out and sleeping with these people. Different world, different time period, much more acceptable back then. And she said the sailors and their uniforms and their bodies, and I was it was so great hearing this. And then we had some vodka, and I was making them while I was drinking my cider, which was crazy because I didn't realize that cider, Angry Orchard, actually comes from right around where my grandma lives in New York, which is so cool. And I spent time with them, and it was so sad. Almost makes me cry right now thinking about it. My grandma said, this might be the last time I ever see you. And I love you so much. That hit me so hard. I didn't even know how to respond because it was ridiculous. But I'm so thankful for my experience. And then I went up to the wedding. One of my best friends got married. They rented an entire inn, like an old inn with, I don't know, 20 rooms overlooking the mountains in Vermont and the ski resort. They got married by a pond, and I was there for 2 days. And we basically just hung out, ate food, drank, went to a crazy like bodybuilding gym 50 miles away because my buddy whose wedding it was, he's a very sought after wrestling coach. So all three of the guys in the wedding and the party were all D1 wrestlers. I always joke and say, well, if you're going to pick a fight with someone, you see that cauliflowered ears, don't mess. The one kid, I kept calling him No Neck because he's just a ball of fucking muscle. I think he told me he lost one match in high school. And the only person he lost to was the #1 wrestler in his age or weight class in the United States of America. I'm like, dude, my buddy's like, you don't understand how freaky these kids are. So like, yeah, he squatted 600, he benched a deadlift to 650. What is that? 300 kilos in high school. I was like, what? It's like freaks. He's like, they're all 19. They're all ripping their shirts off behind the bar because their parents were there, so they're letting them drink. Like, just like wrapping their guinea tees around their head. Some people call them wife beaters. I call them guinea tees, the undershirts. And because all the guineas wore them, my uncle, my great aunt's husband, who died 22 years ago now, he had a stroke, was in the home for 11 years. Again, you never know what's coming. He was the most stereotypical, his last name was Caiazzo. Oh, you see photos of him, you're like, that guy's so Italian, it's not even funny. And I just learned so much. I remember sitting by a pond, there was a pond on the property, just having a coffee, just thinking about the shortness of life. Again, when my grandma said, this might be the last time I ever see you. That might have been one of the bigger perspective shifts I've had in the last couple of years. And going up there and realizing with friends and family at the wedding of what is important in life. What is key? And what is key, to my opinion, are the experiences. Disconnecting during those experiences, not having my phone on me. We're on our phones way too much. Phones are not good or bad. They just have to be balanced. And how thankful I am for everything I've gone through in my life. So, I know it was a little bit of a different type of video than I normally do. These are just things I thought about when I was traveling. And how grateful I am to live in the time period where you can recover from OCD. So I'll start the other REBT series tomorrow. Let me know what you think. Do you have any questions, anything? You know, those weren't the only perspective shifts I had. Yeah. It's interesting to be around people who are, you never know when you're going to die, but, you know, you're 91 years old. You're closer to death than I am in an age perspective. Wow. Wow. You never think it's coming. I'm sure in the 50s and 60s, and they owned a bar for 30 years. This was back when there were still racial tensions in upstate New York. My great aunt was telling me the difference, you know, when the Black Panthers came in and then all the racism in the 60s and 70s, and they'd like stop each other from scalping each other. And it's crazy stuff. I'm just thinking about, and there they are. No money, by the way, both of them. No fucking money. No Social Security, you're screwed. Screwed. They have no money whatsoever. So my mom tries to help them out as much as she can. So just think about life, perspectives. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Hope to hear from you soon. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.